obsessed with the Connie Pheiff Show. It's about a lifestyle shift to move up or out.
Hey, what's your jam? What's the one thing that really drives you? What makes you unstoppable?
It's about opening a new door to live your dream.
People give up way too early on their dreams.
It's about enjoying the journey. It's about keeping it real.
Damn, now the interviewee is interviewing the interviewer. I like this.
It's all about you.
I knew there was something else I wanted to do. Stop taking shit so seriously. Y'all can do this. Take an outrageous look at life and laugh.
This is the Connie Pheiff Show.
We love your voice. We love your jam. You need to be on radio.
And now your host, Connie Pheiff.
Hi, everyone. It is Connie Pheiff, and we're back for another week of the Connie Pheiff Show. And I'm so excited because we just continue to bring some fabulous, some really awesome guests that are helping you thrive in business, thrive in life, and just really, learn how, to get beyond things. And today is exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about how thoughts become things, which is also out as a movie. And today's guest is one that we can say is a modern day Napoleon Hill. And he is very involved with this program, which has been recognized by CNN, Fox, Business, NBC, Business Insider, Forbes, many other outlets. So let's bring into the studio right now, Doug Vermeeren. Hey, Doug, how are you today?
Excellent. It's really good to be with you. Thanks for having me.
I was excited when I seen your background and all of the work that you're doing, but the movie, and of course I took a look at the movie itself, and it really shifts, it really changes and shows you that power of thought. Which is a lot that you're doing. So I'm going to ask you if you would share just a bit more about that.
Well, it's interesting because as you introduced your show, maybe we'll have to come back and also talk about business because that's one of my fortes. This whole idea of how thoughts become things for me actually began, and that referral to Napoleon Hill began when I was about 19. And I started with a series of interviews of the world's top business leaders and entrepreneurs. And I got to more than 400 of the biggest business leaders and entrepreneurs in the world. But what was interesting is I didn't come from that background. In fact, my father worked in construction. My mom babysat kids in the home. And so that was the first real sort of mindset shift that I had. And so kind of the beginning of this how thoughts become things journey. And so, that's really kind of the foundation of everything. What do we say? The thought is the spark that really leads to the reality.
Right. And I mean, we can certainly relate. Both my parents worked in a sewing factory.
Oh, wow.
I mean, if we go back a generation and from the Appalachian Mountains, and, people even say, like, how did you get there? And I was even the first in my generation to go off to college. And, that was, again, just something just not heard of. So what you're talking about, really the power of thought. But also you talk about the influence and the things around you and that power of connection. I just to share really how, where that power comes from and having that type of mindset.
Well, it's interesting because in the film and in life, we often talk a lot about programming. In fact, most people use this idea of programming as an excuse. They say, well, I was raised in a family that never did this, that never had the opportunities. I was in a community. We had no money. The resources just weren't there. And so we say, well, that's my escape route, so to speak. So I don't have to do anything great. Big things. If I fail, it's not a big deal because I can use that idea of programming as my sort of crutch. But the truth is you've heard this saying that we become like the 5 people we spend the most time with. And I accent that word spend because that's present tense, right? That's where we are now. Yeah. And the thing that's interesting for me, just going back to, again, those interviews I did with the 400 top achievers, I started that as a college student who, no kidding, I think one day I went into the shopping market and I had my ATM card declined for $4.22 to buy some groceries. Like I was that broke. Yeah. But inside of 6 months' time, hanging around with those top business leaders, learning from them, letting them influence me, adopting them really as my mentors. In fact, some of them even became like literal relatives to me, grandparents and brothers and sisters like they did. But I was able to, in 6 months, actually take the very first business I started to over $1.6 million as a 19-year-old. Right.
Wow. We want to talk to you about that.
Yeah. And so it's really important that we understand that this idea of our programming is ever changing. In fact, even right now, as the listeners are tuning into your show, they're being programmed in terms of what they believe, what they'll take as truth into their life, what they'll attempt, right? And so it's really, really important that we recognize that our programming is always shifting. Right. It's like that book, The Brain That Changes Itself, if you've ever heard it.
Yes.
New neural pathways are consistently forming for us all the time.
Right. So let's step back a minute because a lot of our listeners are business. I mean, this is what we do here. We build business, but it's always about that shift or that mindset or, so many people, saying, I don't want to be in the 9 to 5. I want to be over here. Or, there's so many things going on. And let's throw in now 2020, which is COVID, and so many people who have been furloughed. And they're just like you said, there's nothing for me. I don't know where to go. I don't have those opportunities like somebody else. Let's give them a trigger.
Talking like this.
Yeah, let's give them something.
Well, let's maybe just give this context first. Okay. So when I interviewed the top of the top business leaders in the world, one of the things that I started doing was creating passive income streams, right? Because that's really what business is, right? When we build things according to a system, which is either to delegate or to automate, then it's passive. That's the goal of business. Wealth, by definition, is not having lots of money. It's having lots of money and the time. Right.
That's right.
So passive income. So right now, I'm just going to suggest if your listeners want to Google the phrase #1 passive income coach, you're going to see me. Money Magazine actually rated me as the #1 passive income coach in the world. And let me maybe share with you just something. I know this is kind of not in the context of how thoughts become things, but something super, super valuable to your people. And who knows, maybe we'll come on another time. We'll share some more business tools.
Hey, that's okay. We never know where the conversation goes.
Yeah. Let me show you something really kind of neat. Okay. So let me give it some context, a bit of a story. So when I was 19, like I said, on my way to make my very first million, like I said, I was surrounded by all these business leaders and I was just in awe. And I was like, I want to do business. This is cool. All these guys, like I've got one of the founders of FedEx here and the former VP of marketing for KFC. And then, the people from Nike and Reebok. And like, these are the guys I was surrounded with, right? The founder of UGG boots and like just all these things. So I wanted to be a business leader. So I decided I was going to approach one of these guys and say, would you invest in my company? Like, would you give me some money? I got an idea, right? So basically the idea was, he said, go get me a business plan of what you're thinking about and we'll talk for lunch.
Okay.
As I always felt at that age, remember I was 19, is that thickness of business plan equals quality of business plan.
Yes.
So when I started building this business plan, I remember spending like the night at a Kinko's just making photocopies of graphs and anything I could find that would make this thing thick, right? Like just whatever it is. So the next day I got to him for lunch and I remember he didn't even really touch the business plan. He said to me, he goes, what are the transactions? And I never heard that before. And so I said, well, this is the demographic. This is who we're going after. And he stopped me and he said, what are the transactions?
Right.
And I said, well, no. This is kind of like, this is the marketing plan. This is how we're going to do it. And he stopped again. What are the transactions? And then he pointed out something interesting. He said this, and I'll maybe draw this as a chart. Hopefully you're
sure.
Okay. So he said, your transaction is, okay, so this is going to be you, smiley little you. This is going to be your customer, right? He said, transactions are essentially how you will give them there's 3 things only that you can sell: an asset, a service, or information. Those are the only 3 things that you can sell. So a product, a service, or information. He says in exchange, they're going to give you money. But until you understand what that transaction is, what are you trying to do as a call to action? Your marketing plan really doesn't matter. Your demographic doesn't matter. And whatever else you're thinking about doesn't really matter. And then he said something really kind of interesting to me. He says, this is where most people make the mistake. Is most people never recognize what steps need to take place specifically for this person to receive that asset, service, or information. And then going back, what needs to take place in order for you to receive the money. Now, let's make this immediately more passive. The thing that most people don't understand is they think that they have to be the provider of all of these.
Right.
In fact, another day I was visiting with a business leader too, and I wanted him to help me with my business. And I said stuff to him like, how can I find the customers? How can I find the funding? How will I get the distribution? How will I get the products? And I'll never forget, he stopped and he was like, I can tell you're going to start a really small company. And I said, what do you mean? Like, I want to start a big company. He goes, no, you're going to start a small company. I said, well, what do you mean? He goes, it's because you're asking selfish questions. How can I? How will I? How could? It's all I. He says the question you need to ask is who? Who has my customers? Who has my funding? Who has the distribution channels I need? Who can help me with the marketing? Who can? And so that kind of takes us back here that there's really only three things in all of these systems. It'll be tell, sell, and service.
Right.
So in other words, how are people going to hear about you?
Yes.
How are you going to tell them when they do? And how are you going to serve or deliver this? So what our objective is then is to look in these areas, what's happening here, and how do we delegate or automate some of these things? And the more that we can give some of those things in the middle to other people to do or systematize them, the more passive your business becomes.
Right. So tell, sell, service.
Yeah, because it's always going to be in those areas. Like obviously your business operations are something you'll never delegate, or your legals or things like that. Like you got but how you tell people about you, the marketing, the branding, all these things, how the messaging comes out, you can delegate all that, or how you sell it, who's going to convert your customers and teach them and make that happen. And then how you're going to service and provide. Well, here's the thing. Why do they call me the number one passive income coach? It's because I'm doing over 8 figures per year and I work literally less than 6 minutes a day. Right?
I think I'm going to hire you.
Well, actually, we've got a brand new book coming out next year called The 6-Minute Workday. But yeah, I mean, I'll come back on. We'll talk more about this.
I would love to. I would love to. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that's the gift of surrounding yourself with 400 of the world's top entrepreneurs, right?
Yes. Yes. And we can talk definitely another time. I know we're supposed to be here talking about the movie.
The movie's great too. But the truth is, I'm so excited about both. And the reason why is because it all does start with your thoughts, right? Like even me as a young man, because I was timid, I was shy, I didn't believe great things about myself. I had doubts, I had fears. But as soon as I started surrounding myself with a higher level of peers, and they then unfolded to me how things really work. I guess this is another question too, because many people come from a place of fear, and fear is created through imagination based on what we don't know, the things that we don't know. Right. So when we have the right people around us helping us to understand things, then we know the truth. Right. And fear can't exist in a situation where truth is. Where you know the truth. Truth kills that, right? And I suppose, it's kind of another thing too, that if we're talking about fear and negativity, like I know that a lot of people spend a lot of time talking about this idea that, we got to control our thoughts. And if you want to manifest great things, you always have to be pristine, positive, and never, ever doubting yourself. And negative thoughts can't ever have a place. But the truth and the reality is that negative thoughts actually exist, and they will exist because every thought that arrives is a duality, right? There's a positive part and a negative thought to every thought. So again, let's talk about your business people here on this call, which I'm excited to hopefully serve one day.
Well, let's definitely come back to that. The Connie Pheiff Show is heard everywhere. You can find The Connie Pheiff Show on most of your favorite networks. It's time to now recognize and thank our major networks for all of their support. In the house, we have Conscious Business Radio, C-Suite Radio, Transformation Radio, iHeartRadio. We are also heard on Google Play, Apple, Radio, Stitcher, and so many more that I just can't keep up with them all. I'm Connie Pheiff, your Unstoppable Diva. Learn more about our gym and how we can work together at my fancy schwanky website, ConniePheiffShow.com. I'll see you over there. Until then, like, share. Now back to the show. I know with the movie, and you talk, and what you're saying, you talk about that, about secrets revealed and learning how your thoughts manifest your reality. Even when you're stuck or conquering those negative patterns of anxiety, fear, stress, overwhelm. I mean, that's everything that I'm hearing you talk about. How do you do the overwhelm? How do you move beyond that? How do you stop having that fear of the unknown?
Well, especially for an entrepreneur, let's be honest. I mean, generally your paycheck is completely your fault. If it's good, that's your fault. If it sucks, it's your fault.
That's right.
So, I mean, to be quite frank, I think that it's a tough thing to be an entrepreneur, but it's also the greatest thing, right? And
I would never. I'm going on 14 years now. I would. Yeah, there's definitely an emotional roller coaster.
Of course. Yeah,
there is, but I would not trade it for anything. There was a small minute at the beginning, a minute where I was sick. And so during a little bit of recovery, I had an opportunity to go in as what we call a temp or an ICEO to help an organization. And I said, okay, I will give you, and I gave them a very definitive amount of time that I would do that. I did my job and I called and said, I'm out. And I was like, I would never go back again.
Well, I think that comes back to that saying that the best day working for the best day working for someone else can never compare with the worst day of working for yourself. You have the freedom.
And that is true. And that is so true.
And, one of my favorite pictures that I have in my phone that I always can return to is I've got 3 kids. But I've got a picture of them all at their sports day in elementary. And while all the other dads or moms were off working, I was running my business from my phone. And I wasn't really even doing anything. Remember, 6 minutes, I learned how to organize my life in such a way that I could generate returns without having to be tied to it. Like money should never be tied to time. That was one thing I learned early from my mentor.
Yeah, not to do that.
Point of view. But you know what? Let's talk a little bit about that idea of overwhelm and fear and stuff.
Sure.
Because I think that one thing that a lot of people think is that, again, that, like I said, that if they ever have a negative thought, they can't manifest the realities that they want. And so therefore, they're always stressed about, how do I think positive? How do I stay positive?
Right.
And the truth of the matter is you can't. So it's actually impossible for humans to be consistently positive. Yeah. And if they are, there's probably something wrong, right? You've always met that super happy guy and you're like, what's his problem? Right?
Like, what is,
he just hides his negatives really well.
Right.
But that's not required. That's not required. Here's the deal. Like I said, every thought has a positive and a negative. And so if we talk about this from a business concept or context, you may say to yourself, here's the positive. I want to start a business. I know it'll give me the freedom that I want, possibly the money that I want, the opportunities I want, etc. That's the positive. On the negative side, right behind, you're going to have I don't know, maybe this isn't for you. Maybe you can't do it. What happens is that thought descends now into your programming and your, what's going on in your life, the group of influence that you have, the standards you have, the beliefs that you have, everything. And if that is not supportive, the negative side will rise.
Yes.
Right? If it is supportive,
absolutely,
then the will rise. And I think the thing that we need to recognize is that, we can always shift that environment. We can choose what we want to put in it. And our thoughts are actually more reactive than they are creative. What I mean by that is that, we don't automatically just come up with a thought out of thin air. It's generally something that provokes it.
That's right.
But the problem with most people is they don't kind of pre-plan how they're going to support that thought when it arrives. They don't pre-construct, if you will. So let's use an example. If I were to say the word dog right now, like think of a dog, the size, the color, the make, the model, the temperament, everything, right?
Right.
The truth of the matter is had I talked to you before the show and I said, I'm going to tell you later on, probably about 20 minutes in, to think about a dog. So plan one right now, pick the dog you want, and you'll be set. Now, when I say dog, you're not reactive. You go right to the dog that you've already pre-created, right?
Right.
And so here's what most people don't do when it comes to their business life, especially entrepreneurs.
Yes.
They haven't pre-created how they want things to look with certain circumstances. So when somebody knocks on the door, your wife shows up or your son shows or somebody shows up, your husband shows up and says, hey, I'm taking the kids to go to the zoo today. You want to come? You've got all this work set up, but all of a sudden the zoo, that sounds pretty good. And so we basically put on hold what we want in the long term to go chase after something that is the immediate gratification. Now,
well, you do bring up a good point there because I will get, people who call me and say, oh, well, I'm looking for a mentor and I want to, I don't like working with people who are just starting a business because they don't always fully embrace that you can't always go to the zoo.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things, unless you build a boundary, everyone's fire will always become your emergency.
Yes.
And you've got to be really careful about that. So you've got to pre-select what you're doing. You've got to find your reasons why. You've got to see, the long-term vision. It's interesting, just from another perspective. One of the things that you hear a lot of people say, now, by the way, when I interviewed the 400 top achievers, I found a lot of stuff that the gurus teach today is incorrect. Okay. The stuff that they're teaching just will not ever make you successful or wealthy. One of the things they say is,
well, I'm glad I'm not the only one that's been saying that.
Oh, yeah. It's true. It's true.
Yes.
Most of them haven't made any success except for selling their courses. Right. So they've never really created a multi-million-dollar business, and you don't want to learn from somebody like that. So here's one of the things that I learned. They say that happiness is a choice. Right. Well, actually, that's only partially true. Happiness starts with a choice. I've actually spoken at a prison, a maximum security prison once in North Carolina. Okay. And when I walked in the door, I was talking with these people about choice, and many of them said, "Oh yeah, I thought I was making a good choice when I did the murder or whatever else." Right. So, choices based on immediate gratification don't guarantee happiness. They don't guarantee freedom. They don't guarantee a benefit. So here's the deal. Happiness, by definition, or wealth or any other successful trait, is making a choice, but then creating a consequence that you're pleased with, a consequence that gives you what you want. Right. So we've got to understand that when it comes to business as well, it's not just a matter of choosing and what we think is best. We've actually got to really plan the consequences. We've got to know what the results will be. Right. Now, by the way, the cool thing about this is also another fact that I found to be very incorrect what the gurus are teaching. You've heard that if it's meant to be, it's up to me. Right. Well, that's kind of bull crap too. It starts with you, it's true. But if it's meant to be, it needs to be a team. So if you want better consequences, one of my favorite quotes is from Steve Jobs, who said, "We don't hire smart people and tell them what to do. We hire smart people so they can tell us
what to do." Right. I quote him all the time. Yeah.
So if you want to create success, it's how do you replace yourself with people smarter than you? How do you build the key number one skill that entrepreneurs need? And you hear this also, there's a lot of gurus that say it's sales. No, it's not. That's like absolutely ridiculous, because anybody can sell something if it's good. Yes. Right. The truth, and you find the right people, have a need. It's even by sheer accident as a numbers game. There's people that suck at selling that still do pretty good. Right. So that's not the number one skill. The number one skill is learning how to create and maintain high-level relationships with people who can build you the best team.
It is all about relationships.
Yeah, it's all about organizing people. It's the best team wins. That's what entrepreneurship is.
That's right. It's all about those relationships. And I talk about that all the time, from when I was at the U.S. Chamber or Girl Scouts or anything that I've done in my career to, again, having my own business. It's always about those relationships. And we have a roundtable with some, very high end individuals. And it's the roundtable is it's not a learning session. It's about those relationships and building those relationships with each other. Because like you said, it's really those that you interviewed, over the 400 individuals. I only did 50. I didn't get as high as you did, though.
Well, you're not done yet.
But I'm definitely not done yet. I was doing it for a book, and that book is still going. But you have a lot of really fun and exciting things. I could definitely continue talking to you. Really quick again about, let's jump back to the movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, some of the other secrets that are in the movie and some of the other folks that are in the movie, just share a little bit about what was that path that took you there? And, why are you known as the next modern day Napoleon Hill?
Well, I think the Napoleon Hill thing, that was, I think either CNN or Fox that called me that the first time.
Okay.
I think it's because to write the book, Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill interviewed 400 of the world's top achievers.
Right.
Mm-hmm. He got to people like Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, the Rockefellers, Carnegie's, all that kind of stuff. So I've interviewed more than 400 of the world's top achievers. They actually are still, many of them, very close friends. They also come out to our events and participate in our trainings. In fact, we just did a training where I had Brian Smith, who is the founder of UGG Boots there.
UGG Boots. I've met Brian many times.
Yep. And we just had Chris Brown, from co-founder of Ted Baker, who you might know, the Ted Baker clothing line. And, so we've got lots of really neat people like that come out to our events and are part of our faculty. So we've got a very unique, kind of perspective on how that happens. But the other thing that's kind of interesting is most of my students, like I've got the reason why they called me the number one passive income coach in harmony with that is I've got the highest number or results of successful students. So I won't say who the competition is, but just think of anybody teaching about money, business, real estate, finance, anybody. So kind of what Money Magazine did is they did a study of my students compared to theirs, and they found that out of the group of students that I had, more than 78.2% of them end up making at least a minimum of $10,000 a month in passive income every single month.
Very nice.
Right? But here's the thing that's crazy is the closest behind me was 8%. So that just kind of gives you an idea. But it's not because I think, not because of how do we say, you got to think outside the box to become a great teacher. The truth is you just have to have the right box to think in. And
I love that.
Imagine, right? You got to imagine is after you interview 400 of the top business leaders and entrepreneurs in the world, there's certain success markers that begin to appear.
Yes.
And the truth is most of the gurus, as I said, are not teaching them. So for example, one of the things you hear a lot of gurus say is take massive action. You need to hustle. You need to grind. You need to wake up early at the 5 a.m. club. You need to go to bed late. But I find it always unique to really look at that and say, well, okay, so you've told me I've got to be busy. What would you like me to do?
Right.
And not one of them says.
Right. I love that.
What you should do.
I love that challenge. What a challenge. Oh my gosh. That is. Yeah.
So here's my thing is I'm a firm believer. Don't take massive action. I want you to be able to sleep in. I want you to be able to go to bed when you want. I want you to be able to take time with your family.
Right.
I want you to go on holidays. I want you to, if your business cannot be left alone by you, you don't really have a business. You've got a job. And so I don't want you to take massive action. I want you to take deliberate action. I want you to do the right things.
Powerful.
I want you to understand that productivity isn't doing more. Productivity is sometimes simplifying, doing less, but getting bigger results. Right?
Right.
So that's one of the big things that we share.
I love that.
About how do we come up with the movie, How Thoughts Become Things?
Yes.
So when I was in 2006, like everybody else, seeing The Secret everywhere, like The Secret was on CNN. It was all over the place. So the funny thing is at that point in time, I knew all the speakers already. So I knew Jack Canfield, I knew John DeMartini is one of my best friends, and I knew John Ostroff and Marcy Shimoff. I knew all the gang from that film.
Yeah.
And so one day I was with a friend of mine who was a professor at a local university here in my city. And she was involved in psychology and studied neuroscience. And she was really smart lady. So I just said to her candidly, we're having a quick lunch. And I said, what do you think about this law of attraction stuff? And
that's a topic for lunch.
Yeah, but her answer was very super insightful. She says, it's not a law. And I said, what? It's everywhere right now. Everybody's talking about this. You're telling me it's not a law? She goes, it's not a scientific law anyways. And she began to explain that scientific law is that everyone, no matter who, could repeat the same equation of X amount of units of, say, thinking positive, X amount of units of action, X amount of this and that, and it would always produce the same predictable result. She goes, it's not a law, it's a theory. And so I was thinking, there is some truth to that.
Wow.
There's no disputing that, some of the things that they've shared about the law of attraction are really quite good. So I came up with the thought that this is really the beginning of a conversation, right? The Secret was the beginning of a conversation.
Right.
So when Mike Dooley in the film says thoughts become things, I was like, okay, how? And I didn't just want to study like the woo-woo kind of fringe science behind it.
Well, and that's what people look at, like, ooh, that's all woo-woo stuff, and we're not going there.
That's right.
Right.
I want to know the real psychology, the real, things that I observed in my interviews with the 400 top achievers. I wanted to observe the real world kind of even the neuroscience physicality, the chemistry that's taking place. What is exactly happening? And I think we did very well with the film. But one of the things I also want to do, and I should make this clear, is I didn't want to like create a science film like we used to watch in high school that everyone's like, right? Because that's way above everybody's head.
Right.
Create something that was practical, something that was fun, but also something people will get real world results from. And I didn't want to create a film where we would just watch it and say, great. I wanted to create something we could apply. So the cool thing with the film right now is it's designed from a neuroscience point of view to learn by. So it's a very unique film, but it also comes with a workbook and all kinds of other materials that make it more of an experience rather than just people watching it saying, oh yeah, it's kind of good.
So, I mean, so there's a group of you, John Asseroff, Bob Dole. I mean, you know, there are several of you that are participating and contributing to this project.
Yes.
And all of you, and I know most of you now, now you, and just incredible human beings.
Well, thank you.
You know,
I appreciate that, but you know who the most important person in the film is? And we actually calculated it to be this way. Now, like you said, you've got Bob Proctor, Marie Diamond, John Ostroff, Dennis Winkley, you know, all these people, right? The most important person in the film is actually you as the viewer. And it's been designed that way for you to be able to kind of, like I said, from a neuroscience point of view and learn and recognize and see the mental hooks, the things that will really kind of help you pry apart the old you, see what you really want. That's important because most people don't know that yet. See what you really want. And then recognize that it's accessible to you in a certain way to go about approaching that. You can increase the likelihood that you will arrive exactly where you want to be in the future. And I think that's cool. And by the way, it's not just about, you know, everybody focuses on how thoughts become things. They focus on the things. Let's get the car. Let's get the Ferrari. Let's get the nice house, the traveling in, and let's blah, blah, blah. But the truth is I love what Stephen Covey once said. He said, many people climb the ladder of success to find that it's leaning against the wrong wall.
Yes.
So one of the things that this movie will help you do is also to find what you really authentically want. Not just
I was there. Stephen Covey, I remember hearing that quote because I made it all the way to the CEO of a corporation. And it was, do I really want to be here? And so, I mean, for me, it was, you know, a realignment and I was out. But as much as it was very upsetting and disturbing and disruptive, at the same time, it was like, I'm out.
Well, let me use the split chart again, and I'll show you something really kind of cool. Funny, because when I was studying the world's top achievers, I noticed something that a lot of those gurus get wrong again.
Okay.
I'll draw a circle on the wall on the board here, and I'll put in that P and P. Your passion and your purpose. Okay. So many people say, you want to be a successful entrepreneur? Focus on your passion. Focus on your purpose.
Right.
And you know what? I've met a lot of people whose passion and purpose is really kind of ridiculous. Right? So
I could come up with some people's passion and purpose that, wouldn't make a business.
It just doesn't fit, right? You know, so if your passion and purpose is to say color coordinate your Beanie Baby collection, no one really cares. You're not going to be able to have a prosperous business about that. In fact, Warren Buffett once said, what you love about you is your hobby. What other people love about you is your business. So you've got all these gurus out there who've never created massive success except for selling their programs. And they're telling people, you've got to focus on your passion and your purpose. I'm telling you, it doesn't work. Now, what you need to do, it's almost there, is you actually need to find where your passion and purpose actually overlaps the passion and purpose of other people. This overlap is the sweet spot. Because now you've got people who will actually compensate you for sharing that passion and purpose, but maybe even more important, especially as an entrepreneur, because, you know, there's moments where, yes, we can make a lot of money, but other times where it doesn't really feel like we're making a difference or, you know, things get difficult.
In your passion and purpose, sometimes when you turn that into a business, it's no longer a passion or purpose. And then
is if you can find that overlap, you probably get a better gift than the money, and that's validation. Right. Now, it's interesting. One of my success interviews that I did later on, because I'm now up to about 700 interviews. I know we talk about the 400 business leaders, but I'm close to 700. I started adding to it actors and actresses, Academy Award winners, movie people,
right.
Grammy Award people, athletes, etc. So I was having lunch with Edward James Olmos one time. Some of you might know him from Commander Adama's Battlestar Galactica, and he was in Miami Vice and Blade Runner and all these movies over the years. Anyways, he said something interesting. I asked him, what's your definition of success? And I'll never forget, he kind of stopped for a minute, leaned back, thought, and then he said, some people think success is doing things that are hard. He says, that's not success. He says to me that success is finding something that you love and then doing it even when it's hard. And I think this is the thing that many entrepreneurs have, right?
Yes.
So focusing on just your passion purpose, you're missing a support group that will validate you when it's hard.
And
that will tell you
missing those relationships. Well, Doug, we got to start wrapping up here. I know we continue talking here. Well, I usually ask Doug, what's next? So I think you have a lot going on here.
Yeah, my fire, the thing I love to do is help entrepreneurs build successful businesses, because here's the deal is, not only have I been able to do 8 figures now per year, I've helped many others get to 7, and I've got a few that are coming up to 8. But it also gives me an opportunity to bring some more of my top achievers back in to teach and mentor. I always love spending time with those guys. Right?
Yes.
So, if you've got listeners that are interested to really kick your business into high gear, they should definitely reach out to us. We got some awesome programs. In fact, some of them are not even expensive. We got something called the Income Stream Challenge, which you can go to incomestreamchallenge.com. It's only $9.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, $9.
$9. All right.
And
do you have a certain caliber of clients that you work with?
Well, what's interesting is I love, but it's not required, but I love to work with a new and emerging entrepreneur, somebody who's brand new. Especially younger kids are awesome to work with, college age, that kind of thing. But I'll be honest with you, I've had some really interesting ones. In fact, I think my favorite entrepreneur to date, just because she was so gutsy and bold, it was a lady who was 87 years old, and she was a speed walker as well. Like, she did speed walking.
Okay.
At 87 years old. Who the heck does that, right?
Wow.
And she was just like, man, you know what? I've outlived a few of my kids, but the kids that I have, and that they don't really support me financially. And, I'm kind of running out of money because I'm living too long. And so what could I do as a business? And we're like, this is fun. Let's do this.
Oh,
so we had a really good time. So basically anybody in between there.
Okay.
And the truth of the matter is, like I said, I did my first million, 1.6 million actually inside of 6 months, 180 days.
And what was the business?
So, I was mostly involved in real estate. And then I had a few other little things that we brought in with.
Okay.
But you know what? I've always been an entrepreneur, but I've had other things that are involved in that too. In fact, we've had now, I guess, since I want to say like 1993, I've been at this for a while. We've had all kinds of businesses.
We don't talk about time.
Yeah. We've had all kinds of businesses.
I bet.
And what I'm seeing a real kind of big shift right now is people who are coming really to that information. Remember I said asset, service, or information.
Right.
So many people become information sellers.
Yes.
And wow. That, in my opinion, that's probably one of the fastest ways to $1 million that you can even imagine.
Yeah.
Right? I think the world record right now is 6 minutes and 33 seconds.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're going to cut this off now. Because we have to go. I want you to come back because we need to continue this conversation for sure, Doug. I want to thank you for being here. This has been phenomenal. Some really fantastic information for our listeners to really boost them forward, help them shift and see how they can get their own first million added. So thanks for being here today.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Well, everyone, that is all we have for today. I would love to continue the conversation, but I know my team will be kicking me off the air if I go any longer. But make sure that you challenge yourself this week to be kind to yourself and also be kind to each other, and especially to all of our heroes on the front line. Take care. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Hey, y'all, it's Connie Pheiff. Thank you for listening to the Connie Pheiff Show. Check back often. You don't want to miss any of the good stuff. If you like what you hear and would like to be a guest on the show, head over to theconniefeifshow.com to apply. While you're there, check out our amazing advertising opportunities that will put you right in front of your perfect client. I will see you over there. Do yourself a favor this week, activate your power, and be unstoppable together.